Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is an interesting one shot. I've had two people ask for this at separate times, and it was the same ask too. Yin as Aizawa's daughter, paired with Shoto Todoroki. She has an element quirk, so I've done my best to incorporate all of these elements into the one-shot story, so I hope it works out. Here is a what? Todoroki x female listener, Yin as Aizawa's daughter. Oi! Fight me, you damn extra! Bakugo snapped at you as you walked quietly down the hall past him. You shot him an annoyed look, but aside from that, you didn't open your mouth to reply him. As the only daughter of Shoto Aizawa, you were all him, except in quirk, which you'd gotten from your mother. Your dad was the quiet type, introverted to the core, whereas you were similar except you did like people, only certain people. People who weren't loud and obnoxious like Bakugo. Think you're better than me, huh? I'll kill you! He shouted at your back as you smoothly walked past. You ignored him again, rolling your eyes as you continued on to class. It was then that you looked straight ahead and saw that your crush, Shoto Todoroki, was standing in the doorway of the classroom, looking out and down the hall to where all the shouting had been coming from, and your footsteps faltered for a second. His eyes met yours, and you dropped your head down to avoid eye contact. Good morning, you whispered as you stepped up to him, and then around him to enter the classroom. Yes, he replied in his deep voice, the vibrations of his voice shaking you to your core. You see, your quirk, air manipulation, had a lot to do with how you felt wind pressure and vibrations. You could adjust the air around you and others for your benefit, should you feel like they were going to be a threat. Seeing as your father had a different quirk to you, he could only help so much, so you'd spent a lot of time working on your quirk yourself and testing your limits, and you felt like you had pretty much grasped the understanding of how to use it. You just needed a lot more practice. That's why you went to UA, to hone your skills. Yin, Todoroki asked once you'd passed him. You glanced back over your shoulder at him as you stopped mid-step. Would you consider dueling me? Huh? Bakugo's voice cut in on the conversation as he appeared beside Todoroki in the hallway. Don't try and steal my fight half and half. I challenged her first. Will you duel me? He asked you again, completely ignoring Bakugo, which annoyed the hell out of the irate blonde, and he exploded into another rant again. Yeah, okay, you replied softly, then continued on to your seat in the classroom. How come you fight Icy Hot but not me? Bakugo shouted, stalking past Todoroki to get to you. I told you not to look down on me. You're pissing me off. Suddenly ice wrapped around Bakugo's legs and cemented him there as a low-key, annoyed Todoroki held him fast. You're being too loud, he stated in his monotone voice, except that Yin doesn't want anything to do with you. Your heart was still beating in your chest as you sat down and ignored the boys, but you were flattered that Todoroki would protect you like that. He's nice to me, but that still doesn't mean anything, you thought as you sank your cheek into the palm of your hand and rested your elbow on the desk, completely unfazed by the explosions and ice going everywhere around you. You had already made the air bubble around you by forcing the air to spin around you at terrific speeds, so that if any of the debris shot your way, it would be deflected, but thankfully none came close enough to hit you. Then all of a sudden the room fell silent as your dad walked in, and everyone else was in their seats in an instant. It's always comical when Dad enters. If only everyone in this room saw how he acted with the cats at home, they wouldn't be scared of him at all. Your dad droned on about something hero-related, which you only half paid attention to. You could always have a peek at his notes at home if you missed anything, so instead you practiced your quirk while in your seat. You'd been working on your vacuum skills, making the air around somebody negatively geared so that their quirk wouldn't work. Well, for some quirks it would work, like Todoroki's. I'll try it on him in our duel, you thought, as you turned your head back and looked at him from the corner of your eye. He saw you turn your head, and he shifted his gaze to you, which made your heart flutter, so you looked away, a flustered expression on your face. Why did he want to duel me anyway? You wondered, avoiding eye contact with your dad so that you wouldn't have to answer any of his questions. After class, Todoroki approached you to set a time for the duel. It was going to be after school, 4 p.m, behind the school shed. You agreed to it without any hesitation, but it did strike you as odd that he would choose that spot for a duel. You didn't question it, though. At the ring of the final bell, you got your things and told your dad that you'd be a little late home, as you had something to do. Then you went to meet Todoroki at the duel site. He was there already, warming up, and he put your bag down and loosened up your shoulders a little bit. All I have to do is remove the air from around him, and then he'll be in a vacuum space and he won't be able to ignite nor use water, you thought, as you watched him inhale deeply with his arms outstretched, a calm washing over his fine features. You stared at him for maybe a little bit too long, and he felt it, opening those gorgeous mismatched eyes and looking directly at you. You quickly looked away. Are you ready? He asked. You nodded and looked down, digging the toe of your shoe into the earth. I've seen people battle here, Todoroki said. You looked up at him. What? You asked plainly. I see people come here to battle. It appears to be a popular duel site, he said again. Oh, what do you mean? You asked, confused. I mean what I've said, he replied back to you, confused by your confusion. I mean, what part did you not understand? You remained silent, and so did he. Then he tried again to add more information to help you get what he had seen. There's always a male and a female who duel back here. You tilted your head. Do you see them fight? You asked. No, he shook his head. But when they emerge, there's always a victor. Sometimes they appear together, seem to be on good terms, and then other times there is one who looks like they have lost. Then it hit you. The people coming back here behind the shed weren't dueling. This was a popular confession site. This is where hearts were made or broken. Your face flushed with fear. How are you going to explain this to him? Should you explain this to him? If I win, will you, get food with me afterwards? You asked shyly. Yes. He nodded solemnly, like this was a very serious wager. And what about you? What do you want if you win? You asked him, just to be fair. I wish for us to get food together also, he replied. You nearly died, in a good way. That's not really how this works, but okay, you replied, gearing up for the duel regardless. Either way, you were going to win, because his wager was the same as yours, so you couldn't lose. Todoroki nodded and adopted his fight stance, so you took a deep breath in and prepared to activate your quirk. On his count, you quickly manipulated the air around him, thwarting his efforts to make either fire or ice, and after a few attempts, he raised his hand. We are not suited in battle, he stated. But, could we be suited in not battle? You blurted out. Can we still get food together? I'll forfeit. You don't need to forfeit. I will gladly take the loss if it means spending time with you, he said as he walked towards you. Okay, you fumbled, taking a step back as he got closer. He stopped. Are we not supposed to hug? Sometimes, if both parties are in agreement after the duel, they hug, he commented. Hug? You squeaked. I guess that's okay. His warm arms engulfed you slowly, warming the air around you. This is nice too, you whispered. I don't mind this. I kind of feel like I won twice. I feel as though I won as well, he stated. Hugging you makes me feel warm, like my quirk is activated. Your heart was jumping so hard it almost hurt. Anytime you want to duel like this, then let me know, you whispered as he let you go. I definitely will, he replied as he looked down at you. Now, dinner? Oblivious Todoroki strikes again. Or, here we go, hear me out. Did he know what he was doing and did it on purpose to get her alone behind the shed? Either way, it hopefully made for a good one-shot. Stay tuned for the new Miro book coming tomorrow. See you there.